Up next, we're going to be moving into the topic, importance of multi-generational workforce. And we have seasoned speakers for this, trust me. In today's rapidly changing world of work, new career trends, the future of work, and how this impacts different generations in the workplace. Mr. Gbenga Totoyi, a seasoned human resource expert who has done extensive work in people development, organizational design, and institutional development, and will be sharing insights with us for this session. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Gbenga Totoyi. We do appreciate it. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I like attending sessions like this and hearing some things that maybe I have written down to share, reiterated by another speaker just before me. Because you know what that does for me? It just allows me to reduce my notes and I can just go straight to the point. Talking about diversity or multi-generational workforce and things like that, it's something they need to pay a lot of attention to, because this is the first time in a long time, or like it has just never happened before, that when we talk about the workplace, we are having all the generations represented all at once. It has never happened before. I'm a student of what has happened to businesses all around the world. My background is in economics, and for as long as I can remember, I've just always been fascinated with how businesses work, how governance work, and how institutions are put together. I was always that guy that, like they say, I'm the contest person. I was born in Oshodi, by the way, and I grew up in the world. And I have memories of everybody will come out of different houses wanting to play on the street. And I'll probably be that guy that will design the next play we need to have. And by the time it's turning into what they call rough play, you'll no longer see me there, right? Because I'll just design, tell everyone what they're going to do. And trust me, by the time they are fighting, I'm off. And over the years, I have studied the growth of organizations. I've studied careers, I've studied businesses, and I've studied how people come together to make organizations work. And I've been fascinated by some of the things that I found out. And I'll just read some of my thoughts to you. So like I said earlier, number one, this is the first time in the history of the world, or in the history of the workplace, or in the history of how organizations are built, all the different generations. And I want to go there because Praise and other people have spent some time explaining that. We are all together in the workplace at the same time. What happened in the last 3 years or so with COVID is that some of the changes that we started noticing in the workplace got amplified during COVID. And I'll go into some of them very soon. Number two, the concept of work. There's been consistent changes to it, but I think in the last 3 years to 5 years, there was a major shift to how we look at work, as it were. Work used to be so regimented, very formal, something you have to be, as it were, go to school to learn how to do. I mean, by the time we were coming out of the Industrial Revolution, that was the way we saw work. So for me to work as an accountant, I have to go to school or go through some formal setting, be exposed to the demands of that career path, and then I can come out and do it. Even if I was to do business, I have to be exposed to some sort of formal structured learning for me to be able to do it, right? That was the way we saw work before. However, particularly in the last decade, work as we saw it before now had massively shifted in meaning and in context. Number two, the worker is now totally different. The way we see the worker is now totally different. The worker is now younger. The worker is more diverse. I mean, I heard some of the clips earlier. And whilst it is true that at entry point, some organizations might have some sort of age requirements, just as part of the selecting criteria. And perhaps I can take the opportunity to enlighten us a little bit. It's not a substitute for competence. It's just a criteria for selection. And it does not define the absence or presence of competence. And by the way, it is peculiar to certain sectors. There are many other organizations in many other areas of the economy that does not have that as a criteria. And if you want to hear a tip that can help you from someone that has been in the space for a while, just do your best to go work somewhere else for about 6 months to 1 year. So you are no longer regarded as an entry-level person. You now have some sort of experience, and that way, that age selection barrier is off the table, right? But like I was saying, the worker is now a lot more younger, and I know organizations that we've done some work for that are completely below the age of 30 or below the age of 25. I even know people who own businesses in this country that are just turning 30, right? Some are even 25, right? So age is not a substitute or a determinant, a determining criteria for competence. And so you should not let that become a stopping thing for you. So the worker is now different, more diverse, more free, things like that. And that is why we are seeing a major shift in how the workforce is represented in a lot of organizations and all around the world as well, because we're not even having some countries and some organizations finding a way to bring in even the older generation that are retired back into the work environment. Now, the reason why all this is because the workplace itself has changed. And I have it written here. The workplace used to be a place we go to get work done, not anymore. The workplace is now anywhere you can get connected to the internet, get connected to your internal server at work, or get connected to data or the internet, and you can have access to your work, and you have tools to work with. That is now a workplace. So it's amazing now that we can have some level of preference to work from home. We can work from home, and the home is now some hybrid of both a place we live in and a place we work from, because right there and then we can get off our bed, turn on our laptops, have access to the internet, have access to intranet in our organizations, and have access to some work to be done. And yes, we are at work, right? So the concept of work, the worker, and the workplace has evolved significantly. And that is important for us to know. And that's why, fourth point I want to raise here. This is the first, I said it when I was starting, I just wanted to reiterate. This is the first time in forever that we are having multiple generations in the workplace at the same time. Now, what does that mean? And how do we adapt and respond to this? What that means is we need to be careful of the bias that exists against age, either on the older side or on the younger side. And I'll just run through a number of things that are important for us to take note of. If we don't welcome diversity, inclusion, and equity in the workplace, what do we see? We see increased competition. All of a sudden, the older think he or she is threatened by the younger, and vice versa. Or we see potential high turnover. We have some organizations that are so old in their outlook, old in their processes, that the younger cannot be accommodated, and vice versa as well. We have young people who think work can only be done from home, or a generation that feels that no, just if your work is not totally remote, I'm not going to do it. Whilst we believe in the provision and increase of remote work and remote careers, we also understand that that is not all there is to it. Okay, so if that is not welcomed and accommodated, there will be high turnover in the workplace. There will be poor and ineffective communication because there's a bias already, there's a wall. There will be poor use of tech. There will be poor use of technology, and that will have its impact on work. The last that I think is the biggest and that we see all around us is that there will be negative stereotyping. Oh, there's a generation that believes that all young people do is spend time on social media. Well, what I like to tell them is that we have young people that have built businesses from working off social media. And hey, let's check it. Top 4 or top 5 companies around the world today were built by millennials, and they are largely tech companies, right? So it's important that we are not stereotyping, and young people also are not, as it were now, casting older people or dragging them in the mud like the young people like to say. But what are the positives? And that's why I like to wrap it up and just leave with some closing thoughts. If we truly embrace diversity, inclusion, and equity, and I'm emphasizing equity, that allows us to pull together the different generations that we have in the workplace, what are we going to have? Number one, a stronger talent pipeline. I work in HR and I've been doing it for a while. It's amazing the challenges we are having with recruiting, engaging, and keeping talent in the workplace. Do you know why that is? A lot of stereotyping. So all of a sudden, the organizations are realizing that, you know what, even when we go to the marketplace to hire people, it has somewhat become the employees market, not necessarily the employers market. And a huge percentage of people that we have in the labor market now are young people, largely in the alpha, millennial, and Gen Z generation. So you've got to accept them because they provide for you a strong talent pipeline. So you have to do that. And young people on the outside wants to see that representation. Number two, as a positive, is that it creates for better team dynamics. Imagine a team where, for instance, it's a research and strategy team headed by an older person. So that person can set contests. That person, in fact, let me make some of us laugh here. I report to a 62-year-old person, and in working with him in the last 2 years, the way I write memos and write reports has significantly changed. And I remember a particular day, having gone back and forth maybe like 4 times in a particular memo, he sat me down and said, okay, let me show you the check. And he literally said something to me in 5 minutes that I have never heard in 17 years plus of my working career. And he was like, sorry, I know this is not your generation, and I'm probably too boring for you. I said, no, this is good for my career. But guess what he said? He said, I learned this when I reported to a German, and I was working in a brokerage house at the time. And for 10 years straight, I was writing insurance policies. And nothing goes through to my boss without it passing through me. So for 10 years, I sat on a desk and all I did was wrote policies. And that's why today, years on, he still has that competence. Well, you see, that's the benefit of someone like me now working with him, because there's that opportunity for him to transfer that competence to me. So if you want better team dynamics, mix up the age and mix up the outlook, and you'll be amazed with what you see. And that has its impact on productivity. It has its impact on knowledge transfer and skills transfer. I'll say to everyone as I wrap up, there is a level or a dimension of wisdom that is not found on the internet. It is found when you sit with the elders and you ask valuable questions. And to the older ones that are here, there's a level of energy and innovation and risk-taking that you would never smell. There's a skill to your business that you'll never get into until you embrace the craziness and the dynamism that young people bring to the table. So let's all come together as far as the workplace is concerned and create an amazing environment for us to work in. It's been a pleasure being here, and I hope you learned a thing or two. Thank you so much.